out of my mind. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha. To the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time. And I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. You thought it was a joke, and so you laughed. You laughed when I had said that losing you would make me flip my lid. Right? You know you laughed. I heard you laugh. You laughed, and then you left. But now you know I'm utterly mad. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha. To the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. I cooked your food, I cleaned your house, and this is how you pay me back for all my kind, unselfish, loving deeds. Ha? Well, you just wait, they'll find you yet, and when they do, they'll put you in the ASPCA, you mangy mutt. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time. And I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats, and they're coming to take me away, ha-ha, to the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha, to the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time. And I'll be happy.
All right, welcome to the Butchershop. I am Bill the Butcher, and my partner, Brother Theo, is on the line, and we're ready to rock and roll. First, I would like to dedicate that opening tune to our compadres over at APRI, Tavern Davenport, and all them fellas over there. And that having been said, let us commence. Before we start this, and we're going to talk about a halfway serious subject tonight, but first I'd like to give a blessing, because all jokes aside, we're all going through it right now, and everybody knows it. I'm doing Thanksgiving with a dog and a rock Cornish hen to show you how I'm doing. But I'd like to read you something that I wrote this afternoon with Ted's help. If you grew up in the 50s, you know what it is to hear a TV test of the American broadcast system. During the Cold War, we stood on the brink of a nuclear war. In grade school, we learned upon 3 rings of the bell how to go to the hall, sit on the floor, and prepare for the bomb. That bell would ring 3 times, and we would go out and wait in that hall. During a TV show, there would be a break, a loud whistle, and a stern voice telling us that this was only a test. Depending on which side of this discussion that you find yourself, a test can be from God, or it can just be. The trick is to ride and make it to the bell. The gate opened for us in February. We burst out riding a bull called Old COVID. Each time we could feel the proximity of the bell, Old COVID bucked just a little bit harder. Some held fast, some others hit dirt. Now, with the advent of a vaccine, we are in reach of the 8 seconds. But Old COVID has one more trick. Tomorrow, he will try to spin, dismount us, and take away Thanksgiving. Between the inevitable outbreaks that will surely come and the vaccine lies the bell. This Thanksgiving will be like no other before. In normal times, we would sometimes wonder, do we really have anything to be thankful for? Gathering around a table with family and friends and more turkey than the law allows? Well, this year for many, the law does not allow. Fewer will be at the table, sometimes none. There will be empty plates. Those who fell off of old COVID forever gone. But as we draw closer to the bell, this test of the American broadcast system will either make us or it will break us. I believe, as everybody here does, we will make it to the bell. And we will leap off of old COVID, land on our feet, tip our hats, and wave to the crowd, just like Texas in 1880. Ted, your thoughts?
Well, when I hear you talking about it, and when we were looking at it, at putting it together, it occurred to me that, you know, when those people left the East, back after the Civil War and before the Civil War, headed west during the westward expansion, they put all their belongings in boxes and bags, and they'd get to St. Louis and they buy a wagon and they join a wagon train and they would head out west. And about the time they got up to Nebraska and those plains up there, a lot of the times it looked like they weren't going to make it. A lot of them wished they had never gotten on that wagon train, never headed out there, because it wasn't like anything they'd ever encountered before. And I think the reason that we're going to make it as Americans is because just like those westward pioneers, we're committed to this journey, and there isn't anything we can do to turn back. There is no going back. There's only going forward. And so we've got to believe that there's success at the end of the journey.
That's excuse me. That's exactly right. Just like what we wrote today, that last paragraph, that we believe that we're going to make it to the bell. We have to believe that. We do. And that is one. We're going to segue right now into the main part of what we're talking about tonight. There is a bunch of internet radio stations and sites and Facebook and all this kind of stuff, and they're concentrating on fear, mainly fear. Now, I'm not saying we don't have problems in this country. You can look at this silly election that we've got going right now, and you can see the problems. Okay, but Americans have always risen above the problems. We have a constitution. We have a republic. We have a way to get past this, okay? And like I mentioned to people before, this radio station out there and other ones just like it and everything, and their philosophy is one of fear. It's all over. There's nothing that can be done. And here's the theory. There is a huge conglomerate called the New World Order. Now they call themselves the Reset. I guess the Illuminati filed for bankruptcy. I don't know much about them. But they, and these people are everywhere, and they're in control of all the government. And there's secret societies that are watching it. And here's what's going to happen on the pandemic. The pandemic was started as a cover to take over, the final takeover of not just America, but the entire world. And we've all been covered with aluminum dust that emanates from airplanes flying over. It's in your brain. It's on your skin. It's everywhere. And you're a huge antenna. And when they gave you the swab test for your COVID test, that punctured. What's that part of the brain, Jen? I can't pronounce it. You there?
You mean this theory, the medulla oblongata?
Yeah, they puncture that, and it gets in your brain. And then there's no vaccine. It's loaded with aluminum, okay? There's no vaccine. When they give you that, it activates the antenna, which, now get ready for this, okay, wait for it. It activates the 5G, which is really an electronic device technique designed to hook you up to the masters. And then they will take over your body. You will be like a zombie, and they'll just tune you in to do whatever they want to do, okay? And there are people I've said on these listens to these shows, and my God, they believe it. And why I get in so much trouble is I said, hey, you're full of shit, dude. I feel like that, you know?
But wait, Billy, who are the masters? Who are the masters?
The masters, there's I think there's 4 of them. George Soros, of course. He's the grand old Warren Buffett. Bill Gates. Bill Gates is not worried about computers or anything like that. Bill Gates, he developed the vaccines. He's the one that did it. And it's designed to wipe out, basically wipe out the entire human race except for a few slaves that they're going to keep for their own discretions, you know. And they believe this stuff. They actually believe it, you know. We're not talking about the 47 shooters in Dealey Plaza. We're talking, that we thought back in our day, Ted, that was far out there. No, we're talking about, and they're adamant. It's all over. You're nothing. I'm not going to use the language on our show that they use, but you're just a zombie. You're an idiot. You're just an old drunk, and you can't even read a book. You're just, you know, if you disagree, it's a. And we're going to explain to you folks what a cult is tonight, too, by the way, in detail, what a cult is. Because Ted and I met some cult people. And we're not in this radio station to scare people. Now, if there's I think the biggest conspiracy thing we got going right now at this moment publicly is the election. And like I just told our producer, man, I'll be so glad when this nonsense is over. I've talked to a woman in the last 2 days that was howling like a wild dog, screaming and hollering because of Trump. And she goes to the same stations we're talking about. Now, this is how outlandish it gets, people. Outlandish. I know for a fact, because I've got a news service here. Not the dark web, but a real news service. And I go on that news service, and it tells me from CNN to Fox to local newspaper, Biden has taken Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. That's what it tells me. It's really simple, okay?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah. She went to this place called Here We Go Again, some site, some wingnuts running, and he's saying, we've won. Trump's got a second term. It's all over now. We took Wisconsin. We took Pennsylvania. We've taken Michigan, and now we've taken Georgia. Praise God. Now, let's do something else on that, too, by the way. Praise God. Praise God. And I told you, that can't happen. It cannot happen. I'm looking at the news right now. It can't happen. The Lord will. Are you talking against the Lord? Are you talking against the Lord? Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I didn't mean that. I mean, yes, ma'am. God, Ted, you're the psychologist. Tell us why people are pulling this stuff.
Well, first off, I have to explain that I am broadcasting from an undisclosed location, which is actually my safe place between my washer and my dryer. So I'm in my safe place, and I feel safe right now from the Illuminati. But I want us to take people all the way now, and we're going to do that, folks. We're going to take you all the way. That what Billy has been talking about is really basically not a lot more worse than that geodetic survey marker that they found sticking up out of the ground in Utah. Which is basically just the people that used to make crop circles that they could no longer get away with, making the Europeans scratch their heads over the crop circle. So now, they're sticking metal rods in the ground and getting BYU of all places. Of course it would be BYU that's out there, and they're going to study it. They're going to study it closely because it might be some cultural artifact. Now, I mean, it wasn't there before, but it's there now. So now it's like a protected Indian site or something, and the elections, the thing with the elections is essentially just, is really just the election. This election thing is basically just like in Wisconsin, for instance. They're not certifying it yet, and the reason for it is that Biden won it. Okay, 51% is a win. Okay, over 49%. It just is, but it's close. It's close in Wisconsin. So what we have now is we've got a dog. Everybody's seen this in a football game. There's supposedly a fumble, and now we've got a dog pile. Every football player and a couple of fans have jumped on this dog pile, and the referees have to peel it off. And while they're peeling it off, that's the stuff that's going on underneath there is what causes long-term injuries to football players. There's all kinds of stuff that I cannot use the proper words to describe because we're on the radio. But it's dirt. It's dirty. It's dirty. They're doing the dirty stuff right now, just like they did in Florida in Bush v. Gore. Only it's dirtier, and they're dumping like millions of dollars into these dirty dog piles. And so they'll peel them all apart, and then they'll have to have some referees come in, and these referees, with all these millions of dollars floating around, of course, that's not going to affect them in any way, but they'll make the right decisions because they took some kind of oath, I'm sure. But I understand the feelings of people in states where, if you look at the state, the entire state is red except for a few blue spots, which just happens to be where everybody in the state lives except for people that are living out in the country. So you look at it and you say, well, geographically, this is a red state. Well, that's right. If you look at the whole United States, geographically, we're a red country. But you got to understand that you got, the two Dakotas up there, with their 40 people. And they got 4 senators, as opposed to California, who's got their 2 senators with about, a little more than a tenth of the country living out there. So that's why this is a big conspiracy. We got 2 different kinds of conspiracies. But the overarching conspiracy is that fascism is bad. The same fascism that gave us the Civil War, which was to prevent our interference in the war against Mexico. That's why we had the Civil War, really. Yes, we had other reasons. There was slavery, and we had states' rights, and there was a lot of personal enmity, and a lot of bad feelings going all the way back to the Indian removal. But basically, Mexico owed Europe a lot of money, and the fascists wanted their money, the banks. Fascism is not a word that was invented, by the way, by like Franz Kafka or Karl Marx. It's a Roman word, and it means the binding together of many rods, and then the attachment of a blade to that. And that is what the guards that protected the 2 consuls carried with them. It was a weapon that was symbolic of the binding together of many rods, and many whips. And that's what fascism is. We live in a republic, and republics cannot thrive properly without democracies. And our democracy is being eaten away by fascism yet again. We had it happen most recently in World War I. That it failed for them then. We had it again in World War II. It failed for them then, and now we're having it again. And I don't see any way that it can help but fail for them now, because this internet age has turned into a nightmare for both fascism and democracy. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that, get down into the weeds, and explain to people where this is coming from. Because I think a lot of the people that are listening to us, Billy, that this is something that they're not in touch with. They don't listen to internet radio. I mean, they're listening to it now because now we have podcasts, and guys like our senior producer produce these podcasts, and people listen to them through streaming subscriptions. And so what you should be aware of when you're listening to podcasts, a lot of times, folks, is you're listening to a successful the producer of internet radio who is making podcasts. And so news is filtering to you from the bottom up instead of from the top down, which is good. You should be listening to news from the bottom up and from the top down, and making up your own mind as a person who has critical thinking skills and is able to figure some things out on your own. So tonight you're going to get some raw meat that gets chopped up fine so that you can figure it out. But anyway, continue with your thought, Billy.
Well, exactly. I want to read y'all something else. Just come across the 10 that I put together yesterday, and you'll love this, and this will lead us right back forward into what we're doing. It's a thing we wrote called Statement about International Rationality of the International Rationality Revolution. Write that down. There's going to be a quiz. Good. As with everyone here in Texas, I was horrified upon seeing the pictures of the bodies piled up beside the food bank in El Paso. I know it's true. I saw it on the dark web. We're going to talk more about that crap, too. We agonize. We look for answers. We fall into despair. But somehow I sensed a subliminal message that permeated the scene, something remote, right there. A message from those who have no grave. No grave, okay? No grave. And then it came to me. Listen to the radio. I began to put things together. It wasn't easy. Alternative media is crowded out, as we know, by the New World Order that tries constantly to shut down the truth. The men in black are all around us. But you must ask, why? There's a driving idea behind this involved rationality. What is it? I know from the Georgia Guidestones that the accepted theory is that we are all overpopulated, and in short order, there will be no possibility of feeding the masses, populated with non-productive eaters. And we must reduce the number. But how do we do this? I accept that there is no pandemic, that this was just an initial step to lock us down and isolate us from society. All the so-called deaths are only flu deaths. And now we all have pandemic fatigue now, so now we have spousal abuse, and you get a few deaths off of that. We all know that we've been covered with aluminum from the chemtrails for decades. This has set up the neural transmitters in our brains for the next step, to connect us all to the 5G network and proceed to the final stage. The aluminum 5G connection will not activate without a catalyst. That's why the New World Order developed the COVID myth. It naturally followed that the worldwide population, believing the flu was incurable plague, would clamor for a cure, or moreover, a vaccine. At that point, the circle was complete. But I was still wondering, why diminish the population like that? Wouldn't attrition do the trick? But the dead were talking to me. In this crisis, there are restrictions on funerals. No attendees, or very few, all 6 feet from the deceased loved one. No large gathering of grieving at the gravesite. Indeed, in some places, the grave is actually a trench, or in Texas, where they pile them up in the freezer of a food bank. A food bank. Then it came to me. A food bank. Following the Georgia Guidestones, after the elimination of most of the world's population, there will still be millions to feed. And due to the effects of the pandemic on the economy, there will be able-bodied citizens who still need to be fed while the New World Order can stitch together their cashless society. Okay? How would they do this? How in the world would they do this? In a world with no work and no money, how can you give survivors locked down and beginning to starve? How would you help them? Since anyone left would now be a part of the zombie matrix, the G5 consortium would handle the riots very easily. But the induction of apathy into the cerebral cortex, even then, if not fed, they would simply all die. And the New World Order would have to go pick all those tomatoes themselves. It was still eluding me. The New World Order, the Georgia Guidestones, the bodies, COVID, and the vaccines. And as I drove down Main Street, in the part of town that all the fast food establishments seemed to hang out, I stopped at a red light, scanning the signs for something to pick up on the way home. One sign spoke to me. It became as if scales fell from my eyes, and it read, "Coming soon, new jalapeno baby fingers." How would I tell the world what I just discovered? The New World Order was around the corner. I was full of aluminum, a virtual tracker of my own self. Then it hit me. If you were reading this, take the first letter of each word in the title I just gave you, and the truth will set you free. Go ahead, Tim. What we got going?
Well, by the way, have you tried those baby fingers with jalapenos? Have you tried them yet?
No, what you got to do is kind of like a chicken wing, really. It's kind of like a chicken wing with like a single bone going through the middle of it, you know?
Right.
I would imagine you have to dip it like a chicken wing, dip it. Yeah, okay. Dip it in ranch dressing. Oh, boy. Ooh, boy, like Puck would say. Anyway.
Well, you got to have some kind of dip. I mean, now I was thinking something made out of. something made out of the eyes of blind Jewish children or something. But
that would probably do it. That would probably. Hey, you know something? Segue just a little bit. Here. I read that article yesterday about something that, and I don't use like the word they. When you hear somebody say, and they said, well, you don't know who. Researchers at Johns Hopkins and other research institutes like Baylor Scott and White here in Texas have noticed that, when people, when they lose their sense of taste and smell during a case of COVID, when it comes back, it takes a while to regulate. In other words, like if you're eating a French fry, it tastes like dog crap, that kind of thing. And I'm thinking, because there was another conspiracy theory that the Chinese came up with this thing, and everything and that's something that over the other radio station we were talking about, they're very heavily into. This thing is not a virus; it's a little machine. It's the size of a virus or some crap. And the Chinese have bugged this thing up, and everything it does is like a little computer program and all that kind of stuff. If I was a Chinese guy and I wanted to make somebody really freak out, and I said, no, I'm going to take the sense of smell away and the sense of taste and everything, and when they get it back, everything's going to taste like this. I would make it taste like vagina. Your thoughts, Sid?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I got a lot of thoughts. But that last thing you said right there just made my brain freeze up. Look, folks.
They posted your medulla oblongata, right? Now, folks, we're making a lot of jokes here, but I want you to notice what we're telling you. I mean, this is why we're on the global network now. What we're telling you is what these people, notice how nice I am, these people are trying to feed the masses. Everything in that last thing.
Stop trying to be PC. Stop trying to be PC. Just go ahead and call them you people. Or even better, do it like the English do and say, you lot.
Yeah, okay, all right. I apologize. Okay. Well, APRI and those people over in that corner of the world are trying to feed you. In that article I just read you, I incorporated all of the points that they put in their theory into that article. That's why as it goes toward the end of the article, it gets sillier and sillier and sillier until we get jalapeno baby fingers. Because at that point, like he says over there, if you've got two brain cells, you damn well know we're not feeding baby fingers to human beings. Okay, come on now. Let's get a life here. Come on. And that's just what we're going to do on our show a lot. Not every show. We're not going to bore you to tears, but a lot. When we come across one of these numb nuts doing that, we're just going to open them up, and we use scientific method, folks. Brother Theo and I, we use scientific method. When I sit through a 45-minute rant where somebody's telling me that all the things I just told you was that they said was going to happen, and they said, you have any thoughts on this? Yeah, what's your documentation? Well, I have a whistleblower in Canada. Well, that's freaking special. That's freaking special. A whistleblower.
It is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And here's another thing. The dark web. Now, I have a conspiracy theory. No, the dark web is the organization that gets contributions to run their from Black Lives Matter. That's what dark web is. The web presence for.
Well, that's why it's called the dark web. Of course.
This is my fault, dude. What? What?
Sorry. That's why it's called the dark web.
The dark web.
Well, before you know it, we'll have a brown web. I mean, come on.
Oh, man, we already got
the dark web.
You dark web.
I think it costs you. By the way, I think it costs you $2 to get onto the dark web.
$2 a year, man. Because the brown web, and in the brown web, man, you also get benefits, man. You get benefits. You can meet my sister. She's virgin. But you can even meet my mother, man. She's a virgin too, man.
That's the brown web. The
brown web.
So,
the brown web. Anyway, go ahead. Good.
No, I wanted to tell you
what we're doing. Go, speak, Almighty One.
I wanted to tell our fans something, because it's time to put something. See, this is why I'm on Global and not APRI, is because we would have had that plug pulled on both of us a long time ago, and the host would be on there going, they're just too drunk to be on the radio, and they don't have two brain cells to rub together, and they've never read a book. I'm saying, come on, that's why I'm not going to have an allergy to having the plug pulled on me, and I've had it done at APRI, and I've had it done over at that other place where
Vesuvius over there. Vesuvius, yeah. I kind of like him, but I mean, I don't have any animosity toward him. But now when
listen, the guy's a liar. He calls himself a retired. First off, he styles himself and doesn't disabuse people of the lie that he's Strahan. This is a Strahan worked hard for his career in football, and here's this guy pretending to be Strahan, who got bipolar disorder, I guess, and moved to Poland and can't be located because he's living with a white nationalist Nazi, just Eva Braun's ugly trailer park sister,
And then the fellow says, "We all the master is, we'll all lift up and shout, see how right in the Führer's face."
That kills me too, because she's over there talking about the Schwartz or this and the Schwartz or that, And oh God, there's a couple of Schwartzers moving in the neighborhood. Yeah, she's crazy, but so is he. But it is he's crazy in a more polite way. The thing that I used to like the most about him was he liked to have women guests on, and the first thing he'd say to them was, "I've seen your photographs and you're a very attractive lady." Cracked me up.
The best thing that ever happened, when they almost had a rating, the best thing that happened, my granddaughter got in some trouble up there in Brigham, and as Ted knows and everything, I tripped over to Specs, which is our local liquor store. Lots of wonderful food, and they would believe it. Anyway, that's the ad for Specs. They owe me money. Anyway, I went over there, and I got me a handle, which is a half gallon of whiskey, all right? Now Ted, he drinks this stuff that costs a lot of money. I drink Canadian Mist. He had me drinking. What was I drinking up there? Canadian Hunter, and
Oh no, we were drinking Canadian Hunter, which is like Canadian Mist with a little bit of rubbing alcohol dumped into it.
Canadian Hunter is wonderful. You can drink it, and if you get a sexual transmitted disease, you can pour it on your private parts. It's really, really universal. But anyway, I went and got me a handle.
It's good for anything. It is. You can clean your engine with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can pour it up your butt and cure colon cancer, man. Well, we were drinking it.
I did it once.
When we were up there with the Mormons, no offense, Mormons, because I'm a Mormon. When I'm an atheist. Am I an atheist this week or a Mormon? Anyway, when you're up there with them, you go to the state liquor store, and it's kind of like potluck, Whatever you walk in, what they got is what you get, And even the Mormons got sense enough not to drink Canadian Hunter, so there's lots of that on supply. Anyway, I was upset over my granddaughter, and she actually told a bunch of lies on us, both of us. But still, she got straightened out. We got her to the doctor. She's a sweet kid, and she's a star here on Global, folks. There's a video of her up dancing, and she is the puck. But anyway, that aside,
and she is the future of internet radio, by the way, because
oh my God,
in 10 years. Us old people will be either too dead or too old to be of any interest. But she is going to continue to mature and grow, and it'll be her audience that's listening to the radio, and not the people that are currently listening to us now.
Right. anyway, back to the long story short, he brought me on, and now I went on. He will bring me on to like at 8 o'clock at night, I think, 8, and it goes 8 to 10 our time. And now, bear in mind, friends and neighbors out there, I'm an Austin songwriter, and I was about halfway into that half a gallon of whiskey when I went on the air. and Will Turbot. Hey, Will, I gave you an honorable mention. You owe me money, man. Will Turbot was on the air with us and everything. And I went off, and I, honest to God, don't remember what I said. I had to watch the show the next day. But there's some girl on there who had, like, I guess, 5 children by 5 different pimps. And I'm drunk. I'm drunk. And Will, the was going to cut me. Yeah, which he should have. He should have. You know, I'm going to go ahead and mute him right now. And Will's going, no, don't do that. You know, and the ratings went through the roof. It was hysterical. But I don't slur that much when I'm drunk. I mean, I just don't. I've been in music for like 45 years. I can speak and be drunk. I can speak when I can't open my eyes, you know. And man, it was wild. It was wild, you know. Of course, they fired me after that. But anyway, you know, you lose a few and you win a few. Go ahead.
Well, I want to let's we're having fun, but let's buckle down, roll our sleeves up, and go to work a little bit here. I want to. You lead the way, and I'll follow through. Go ahead. All right. Well, I want to talk about first a couple of basic things that are going to resonate with what I said about fascism. All right. One of them is that, you know, when World War I came around, guess what they introduced before World War I that stuck around through World War I? The Spanish flu. And the Spanish flu was the turn of the century's COVID virus. That was COVID in its day. The Spanish flu. So what we're watching is this thing. We're watching the fascist playbook being played out, and I want you guys to keep that in your minds as you go along through life, and especially as you try to work your way through some of these very puzzling things. Now, having said that, I want to introduce you to some things that I know you don't know, because I don't read the dark web, but I do read places that might as well be called the dark web because, you know, not that many people go there. And one of them is something I discovered in July of this year, okay? Because I study fandom. Fandom is something I take a close look at. The fandom is where stuff is happening. And it's a terrible thing that's happened to our culture. It's not the first time that fandom has come along. And it's not, of course, the worst thing that's ever happened to us, even in the 21st century. But if you look at the effects of the hysterical overreactions of fandom, it begins to stick to your skin. And here, I want to give you an example of it so you can understand that. And that is that in July, I started reading about this bizarre strain among people who watch this show called My Little Pony. Have you ever heard of My Little Pony?
Lance and I used an end scene to that, where Lance was one of the co-producers on that, and there's a scene on there. There's a little girl with that long Tom shotgun that's taller than she is, and she cocks up and goes, "Giddy up!" Yeah.
Now, so are you talking about Buttercup Dew? Now, Buttercup Dew actually is the one who writes the blog.
I wasn't involved in that production at all. We used that for one of our sign-offs on the old Weird Works channel with iJackie.
Well, Buttercup Dew is the one who writes a blog called My Nationalist Pony. And the argument in this blog is that as implicitly white as NASCAR, country music, and the Republican Party could be, you could use it to spread nationalist ideas. Now, what this is it's a Nazi strain a Nazi string of My Little Pony. I'm not joking. That's really true. Okay.
Oh God. Oh, let us pray. Let us pray. Oh,
now we see this too in things like a lot of stuff that's out there that we're not really aware of, that we really like, and a lot of it pops up on HBO and the channels that we like to watch, and it's hard not to like this stuff. That's why they call it fandom. I mean, there's a lot of fans, but what they do is they take these shows and these movies and these books and these blogs that they start developing blogs, and these blogs begin to verge into kind of neighboring releases of information that is that would have in our day, in Billy and my day, let's see, we had something called Dungeons and Dragons, and we laughed at Dungeons and Dragons until we realized that it was actually a real thing, and that there were lots of people involved in it, and they took it very seriously. And the next thing you knew, people were getting killed in Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, that's what it is. That developed into Slender Man, and it went from the little, I can't remember, Doom, and that was obviously just a computer game, right? And it went to Dungeons and Dragons, a little more serious people like. And then it went to Slender Man, and then we had teenage girls killing their little friends because Slender Man said to. Go ahead, kid.
Well, I think of what you're talking about right there, and it makes me think of how it is that this mother monster, who was really just a stylized version of Lady Gaga, was this godhead that all people were supposed to bow to. And these social networking services that have been popping up, one of them called themselves Little Monsters, and tattooed words on their body that was in grateful celebration of the mother monster. And no dissent was allowed. Nobody in this cult was allowed to dissent. And if any dissenter, if anybody from the group broke away and tried to start their own splinter group, well, all I can tell you is they get killed, like Leon Trotsky got killed, from breaking away from communism. They get the ice pick. See, you and I. This is the version of the ice pick that Leon Trotsky got. Is when you and I get the plug pulled on us on these other channels. These other channels
you taught me about psychology now, and so I know what this is. Like you said, you try to pull away and you go your own way, and you disagree with the fearless leader, no matter what, and they come after you and they do all this kind of stuff. It's kind of like APRI. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just the thing that we're seeing here is that we used to think of cults as being something you could easily identify. You could easily see it. Now, it really makes some people sick. It really makes some people sick. Some people get very, very sick, and they drive everyone away from them that is not a member of the group, that is not, fully committed to the group. And this means that they lose family members. All of us know somebody. I know all of us know somebody who has lost important family members, mothers or fathers or important family figures, or our wives or our children over this business of the presidency right now. Who's the president? Who is he really? Because obviously there's something going on. Well, what's going on is that a stone cold idiot told everybody not to trust the post office and did everything he could to mess it up. And then the people who use that post office, most frequently, which is actually Republicans, it turns out, were not able to show up and vote in person because of the voter suppression that the states were engaging in. So I'm sorry, that's why they lost, and they did lose. And this business of refusing to certify elections, and even in the cases where they're certifying, almost every time there will be one of the board of canvassers who submits a blank vote in the voting process. So instead of having a 4-0 vote, you wind up with a 3-0 vote. But as anybody with any parliamentary knowledge knows, when you vote, when you abstain, when your vote says abstain on it, that is considered to be a yay vote. In other words, silence is assent. It's not dissent; it's assent.
That is the rule of law that was instituted by Thomas More when Henry VIII drugged him before Parliament and accused him of treason. Okay, and he had been silent the whole time. He never said anything against the king. Never. He tried to withdraw from the government. He didn't. What they wanted them to do, folks, was, they had broken away from the Catholic Church because Henry wanted to dump another wife. And he wanted to start his own church, and everybody in England had to swear allegiance to him. And Sir Thomas would not do it. He was a devout Catholic. He wouldn't do it. So he retired to his estate and eventually got called up on charges. And his defense before Parliament was that he said, I did not attack the king. I did not attack the king, okay? If Sir, I can't remember, Richie Rich, believe it or not, the guy's name is really Richie Rich, has been appointed chancellor. Now, this guy was one of Sir Thomas's assistants, okay? And said, if I were to draw a knife and charge the director of Parliament to kill him, and Richie Rich said nothing to stop it or make any effort to stop it, you can only deduce that he consented to my action. So I said nothing against the king. The only thing you can say is I consent of the action. Go ahead, Ted. Oh, by the way,
well,
I can read, Kyle, very well. Quite. Go ahead.
I was a guy who can't even spell killer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying. I'm thinking about recruitment. Where does recruitment come from? And nowadays, recruitment comes from online, like YouTube. Okay, and I was reading about a guy on YouTube who was killed by his girlfriend in their apartment with a Glock pistol, and their boyfriend actually told her he wanted to die, and he talked her into shooting him in the head. And they had belonged for years to a cult started by a woman named Sherry Schreiner, who was an online conspiracy theorist, and she worked through the internet with a website on a YouTube channel, and she preached that a group of New World Order made up of reptilians and aliens is plotting to take over the world.
On the dark web.
That's right. Because this guy wanted to die because of a feud that he was having with the leader and their followers. And when the leader, Schreiner, started seeing pictures of this guy eating raw meat, the leader, Schreiner, decided that this guy, Rogers, was a reptilian and excommunicated him from the group. And the two were then harassed by the group for 3 months, and it didn't end until the girlfriend shot the boyfriend in the head. So And then Schreiner says that the guy was killed by NATO. This is guys. This is what we're facing.
The internet has given us a whole different type of crime. Number one, the millennials, they don't have it. Okay, but here's the deal: like what you just described. This guy thought this guy was a lizard and had to die, right? So he ordered him dead.
Right.
That goes up. What I love to see is when somebody kills his girlfriend, stuffs her body in the damn trunk, and puts a Facebook live feed up to show everybody. And then please not guilty. Please continue.
Well, they all. I want to go back to this lady Schreiner for a minute because she is so typical of the average internet cult leader. She would start a lot of her long diatribes, and by the way, APRI is a place you can go learn what a long diatribe sounds like. Because that guy starts everything off with a long diatribe. And she used titles a lot like his titles, like The Coming Alien Locust Giant Invasions, or How Aliens Target, Manipulate, and Control Mankind. I mean, am I wrong?
Not at all. Not at all. I love the part when they start talking about the underground cities that are 8,000 feet underground, and there's railroads that go as fast as jet airplanes going to, so that the New World Order can travel from here to there without being seen. And I'll tell you something else, and then I'll shut up for a second and let you continue. I was talking about people putting their crimes on the internet, everything. But you look back in the days of Al Capone when we had real criminals. They roll up into a warehouse in Chicago. They go in there disguised as policemen. Half of Capone's gang goes in there and puts these guys up against the wall, machine guns the hell out of every damn one of them, and nobody saw nothing. Now, that's a criminal, man. Go ahead.
Well, I think back in the day, they were getting a feel for what worked. They were throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing what would stick. Now, the thing is it's not criminal to start up a YouTube site and say anything really, really crazy that you want, regardless of the consequences of your speech. Okay? I mean, you're really not held accountable for that. All this talk about giant locusts and aliens targeting us, these are just what they are is they're global entry points to recruit believers from all over the world. This Schreiner lady, her subscriber count was over 6,000. Which doesn't sound like many, but cumulatively, their videos have been viewed more than 1 million times. So, yeah. which belies her, the number 6,000. So, but it's not. See, we know she's not the only one. She's one of an uncountable number of people. Alex Jones is another example of this. Alex Jones, who's a very popular guy, and it probably owns. Hey, you may even know the channel we're on, as far as I know. But he throws his.
Hey, kid, I think we're working for Alex. Be careful.
well, okay. So Alex needs to be aware of the fact, that there are other people that are coming up behind him. And there can only be one when it comes to Alex Jones. There's never going to be another Alex Jones. I knew and met and had personal experiences with his mentor Art Bell, and I liked Art Bell a lot. I went out in the desert with Art Bell one time. He had bought at nighttime. He had bought a piece of night vision equipment. And while we were out there, some kind of a great big bug flew up and hit him right in the face. while he was using that piece of that equipment, and it put a hickey on him for a little while. What I liked about him was the guy being a psychologist. I like reflection as a means of conversation. I like to reflect and amplify people, and that way I can get a better idea of what it is they're thinking and saying. So it's really odd for me to find myself in a catbird seat where I'm doing the talking. But I'm talking to people that I hope that I understand through my studies what it is that they're thinking and how they feel about it. And I want those people to know that YouTube and other social media have become really, they're not secret. They're openly known weapons for cult recruitment. And yet we never talk about cults on social media, and so that's why we're talking about it tonight.
Exactly.
I mean, we've got.
Give a little background. Ted and I are from Central Texas. Okay. For all you people that know where that's at, Central Texas is probably bigger than your state, but it's Central Texas. Okay. Can I say this? We both met David Koresh, and y'all might remember that name from the 90s and everything. And so we know cults. We got the info. We didn't have to go to school for that. We know cults. You know something's a problem when you go out to a building with a bunch of religious people that are serving good food, but everybody's married to a 14-year-old girl, and you say, we might have a problem here. So we know cults. So, and Ted is a psychologist, and he pulls together the strings that says, look, these are vaguely familiar what's going on here. This is a 21st century adaptation of Mount Carmel. But it's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. But it's just a cyber conversion to a guy walking around with a Bible, preaching to about 88 people who believe every freaking word he says. Okay, go ahead, Ted. Thank you.
I think it's important what you said, because it forms a bridge between people's understanding of cults. People think they understand cults because we have historical stuff laying around that describes, realism and the Moonies. Remember the Moonies and the Family International? But you had to leave home to join those cults. You had to go out and meet other people and go to meetings and stuff. Nowadays, you can join a cult without leaving the house. I mean, you don't have to even leave your own home.
The mental thing is that the lady I was talking about with the Trump thing, she never voted in her life. Never voted in her life. She got captivated by the 2016 election, and she voted for Trump. And, you think, well, okay, hey, God bless America and all that other stuff, But she got caught up in it. I mean, caught up. And when he was running for president again, when he was running for re-election, she would call me up and, what do you think's going to happen? And honestly, now I'll be honest, no disrespect to our Democrat brothers and sisters out there. I didn't think Joe Biden had a chance, man. This is like his third run, and he wasn't as charismatic as Trump was, and I don't think he had the money back. It's not that. Well, at first he said, Trump's going to win. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it, But slowly but surely, Mr. Biden put together a coalition that seemed to work. And I began to see how this was going to work, okay? And then he picked Kamala Harris, who was a double-danger. She's the daughter of an immigrant. She's black. She's Chinese. God knows what else. I don't know how many bases she covered, And I was like, well, I'm a Republican. I was. I looked at Kamala Harris and I said, well, like Buster Scruggs said, that ain't good. That ain't good, And it wasn't. And it wasn't. And now we're seeing the result. Well, this woman, when she realized, she thinks that Mr. Biden's going to drop dead during his inauguration, and Kamala Harris is going to be the president. And like you being a psychologist, she was suicidal. She had to go to the hospital yesterday with high blood pressure, and they kept her for a while she ranted and raved. And wanted to burn down public buildings. I mean, all this stuff. And like John Lennon said, she's not the only one. She's not the only one. We have got to get back to sanity. Just, what I mean, Trump lost, Ted's guy won, and what are we doing together? Okay, well, we're going to see. I've written 3 books with my wife, Pam. We are writing, there's 2 books that we are writing together, and he's writing one on his own. And we got another one coming up called Lindsay Park that we haven't even sketched out yet. We're working our butts off because it's still America. It don't matter who we voted for or anything like, or what we eat for dinner or anything like that. We're trying to make some money, and America is the land of opportunity. And no, there are no reptilians out there in jackboots that's going to give you an injection. That is a lie. But and it sounds outlandish, but believe me, there are people who believe that. This woman I told you about truly believes that Kamala Harris is going to come and take her double-wide trailer away from her, and she's going to be in the streets. And man, if that ain't that shit crazy, I'm not a white boy from Austin. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, when you said that term, it made me think of how all this got started. I remember when Trump got elected, and I remember one of the first things I remember him saying in the very early days was that, everybody's got a different reality, and that sort of resonates with people. They sort of resonate with the idea that everybody has their own reality. But the people that it resonates with most are these so-called sovereign citizens. And now, for those of you who do not know what a sovereign citizen is, these are people who believe that their American citizenship provides them with immunity from any fealty to the actual laws of America. And so what this means is they don't really have to have a driver's license if they don't want to have to go get one. And they don't really have to have insurance on their car if they don't want to do that. And they don't really have to pay taxes because, it's because you're entitled to your own reality. And the problem is that other people's reality is creepy. It's really true. Now, Billy knows how I work. I work on the principles of an old social worker from Canada who is the smartest person I've ever read, and her methodology is the same methodology I use when I'm asked to work. The only way I'm going to work for anybody who wants me to work for them is I'm going to move into your house with you. Now, I own my own house. I don't need a house to live in. But I can't work with you without working with your whole family. I can't do it. And so Billy knows I move into your home. And when I do, this is what I discover nowadays. And that is that everybody's got their face in their own smartphone. Okay? And one, because we're not all that interested in what the other person's looking at, and if we are, we'll be communicating with them on the smartphone, not a direct conversation. But 2, that we're interested in our own thing, and people who believe that lizard people is taking over the world are really actually think that their family members crazy because they believe in demonology, among other things. So, this is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons that we're in trouble. Is because everybody thinks that that there are all these separate realities, and that it's not a matter of you being entitled to your own reality. That's not it at all. It's not a matter of entitlement. It's a matter of whether or not you're going to be able to do something that's very important. Now, Billy and I know something about life, and this is something about life that's true. It's always going to be true. We're in a spot right now where we have so many adult kids living at home that it's not true right now, but it will be true soon, because you can't have a situation like this for long. And that is, this is how it goes. Your mom and your dad went through this process, and now you're born, okay? And you go through the same process, which is you go to school, and you get a diploma. And you may go on and get advanced diplomas. But one way or the other, you get a diploma. And then you get a job. And then you get a car. And then you get a girlfriend. And you and your girlfriend now need a home to live, to go to do what boyfriends and girlfriends do. And then you have a baby. And if you're lucky, you're both sane enough to get married before you do that. But if you don't, hey, it's that kind of a world. And I certainly have. I've certainly lived with women that I didn't marry. Luckily, just didn't have any babies with any of them. But because now this is how it works in every country of the world, except for America anymore, where adult children live at home. And you can't be having your own reality and that system continue to work. That system will break down and all will become chaos. And we may as well at that point be living in a world that's run by limited people. So, you know.
Exactly. Now, what's that, you know this better than I do, the 3 points that you do to make a success. First, you graduate from high school. Then you get married before you have a baby. And if you do those three things, you will most likely succeed because, number one, bad as people think high school is, if you get your high school diploma, home school, then school, that school, as long as you get a diploma, you've got an education where you can add, subtract, and write and stuff like that. Then you get a girlfriend and you marry her. That means you commit to her. I commit to you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. Stop worrying about it. Cook eggs. You know, that. Then when you have a baby, you've committed to the woman. The woman is, is going to help raise the baby. You're going to be with a supportive figure, and that will work. That will work. See, that's the problem with a lot of the modern generation. There's no commitment. There's no commitment. How many of you out there listening to our voice right now have stuck with a spouse, and she's a bitch, but you don't leave because we got kids. And everybody says, well, that's a cop-out. That is not a cop-out. That's not a cop-out. That's what rational, decent human beings do. I don't get along with her anymore. Well, you've been married for 20 years. Why don't you get along? I don't know. But you stick with it. And that makes society. That makes things work. That makes things work. And this is why I don't like this nonsense with these this conspiracy crap. We've got enough to worry about. And with the pandemic, right now, with the pandemic, and it's a real pandemic, folks. It's not fake. It's a real virus. It will kill you. It will kill you, make you sicker than hell, quicker than hell. And all you got to do to live or stay reasonably healthy is what Dr. Fauci said do. Wash your nasty-ass hands. Don't hang around at a stadium elbow to elbow with people screaming and hollering for the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And wear your mask. Does the mask work? The Prophet Puck, one of our hosts right here, what we've been talking about, she told Kyler, when he said the mask don't work, and she said, I'm a diabetic, and if that mask stops one virus, I'm one virus ahead. I'm one virus ahead. If we all did, not what we're told, not like we're being ordered around, but common sense. Let me put this, and then I'll let Ted talk in. All right, let's say we had a nuclear war. We went to war against Russia or China or whoever, and we had a nuclear war, and we won, but we irradiated the earth. We had so much radiation coming down that we all had to move underground for a while because it was that bad. And if we wanted to go out to secure goods and foods and things like that, we had to wear this kind of tinfoil suit that would keep the radiation off of our skin, and therefore we could live. But you had a bunch of people in the corner that says, I'm an American. I'm not going to wear that suit because I have a right to walk out in my underwear. Well, you're going to die, stupid ass. You're going to die. And that's what these people with this masking thing, in my opinion, are doing right now. I don't have to wear a mask because I have a right. A right to what, guy? It's a virus, fool. That virus don't know you. They don't know he's going to kick. He don't care how he has to kick your ass as long as he kick your ass and make more viruses. These are the things that exasperate me, is we politicize a mask. We're on the edge of a civil war. Oh, we're going to yell that too. A civil war based on a paper mask. At least the last time we fought a civil war, we fought against slavery. Jesus Christ. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, I think you've made a box, but I want to put some things in it. One thing about this is different than what you'll hear from a lot of other people about this, because we've got to address internet cults, and I'll tell you why. It's because let's say that you are a parent that is married, and you're in the bedroom, your kid's in the bedroom, and he's on his smartphone, and you're outside in the living room with your wife, and maybe you're one of your other kids or another family member of the household, and you guys are watching Netflix. Now, while you're in there watching Netflix, your kid is interfacing with cult members and a cult leader on his smartphone, which allows the kid to self-radicalize. And we've got this is a threat to America. This is a threat to us because it as Billy talks about civil war, but we're really in danger of self-radicalized cult members committing terror attacks, because there are cult leaders out there on the internet that are leading their cult members in such an irresponsible way that they might commit terror attacks on their own without ever physically meeting anybody in the group.
Just like Ted, hey, this is a local issue for me and you. I can't pronounce this asshole's name. That psychologist, that Islamic psychologist from Brotherhood.
Right.
He never met the guy that spurred him on to shoot all them people. And folks, that happened within 20 miles of me and Ted. Like I said, we knew David Koresh. We knew that son of a bitch too. So these are very real people to us. It's not something we read in some book somewhere. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I would say that YouTube used to be, it still is one of the bigger platforms that's being utilized by cults. I mean, they'll use any tool available to extend their reach, but one of the things that makes YouTube different than internet radio is that if you want to have YouTube upload your videos, you've got to have 10,000 viewers. Am I right about that, Billy? Right, that number right?
It comes up and goes down, but like you told me today when we had breakfast over the phone together, I was blessed with Jackie. I'll be honest with you. And like my friend Juan says, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I had this hot little witch from Detroit. She came on there and became Jackie, so I had thousands of views real quick. So I never had to worry about that. But with Doc Green, he's been struggling for that 10,000 views just so he can get his show up on the air. I never had to struggle because I've always
right. Well, you guys were there when YouTube was a baby, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually changed YouTube's diapers and put a bottle in its mouth. So,
yeah.
So you guys will be around no matter what. And you got a lot of help from things like that IED going off. There were a lot of there were a lot of things that helped you guys out. Yeah, Shockwave and yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you had access to mainstream media for a little while, and then and let us not forget Lance D'Angelo, who was who you know we talk about the brilliance of Jackie, but Lance D'Angelo was an absolute wizard. You know, so
Lance, you're out there, man. You're out there in Hollywood, man. We love you, man. We really do, Lance. We really do love you. We really do. Hey, Lance. Hey, I'm gonna make one little side comment. It's be off subject, but I'm gonna say that he came down and spent a month with us. because he'd been watching Jackie for about 5 years. He wanted to make an I, Jackie movie. So he came down and in August in Texas, right? And it's hotter than the devil's balls. I mean, it's hotter than hell. And finally, we're sitting out there. It was like late August, right? And Jackie's sitting out there, and I'm sitting out there, and he says, "Does it ever cool down?" And she said, "Well, yeah. Usually about the 1st of September, we get a hurricane, and it kind of cools off." And he goes, "Oh, my God. That's a whole new level of screwed when you're sitting around praying for a hurricane." Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that makes YouTube a greater threat is this is a little complicated, so I'll spoon feed it to you. Is that so? You've got a tool there that takes about 10,000. It takes 10,000 viewers before they'll upload your videos. Now, you ask yourself, where do these things come from? Well, you've got these smaller stations like APRI who are out there operating, and they don't have anything like 10,000 viewers, but
no,
they can. But over a period of time, they can speak to the hearts of people who are trying to cocoon themselves, because people are trying to cocoon themselves in this world. And around the beginning of World War I, all people wanted was for everybody to stop being so mad at each other, to stop. They wanted the craziness to stop, and so they did what they could to cocoon themselves, and drinking got out of hand, and it's one of the reasons that we saw prohibition take place. Is people were beginning to drink like they're beginning to overdrink now. When I go to the different liquor stores I go to now, they got more traffic than the big grocery stores that I go to. This little liquor store has got more traffic in it than the little grocery stores, and it's because people are looking for a way to cocoon themselves against what's out. They need an alternate universe, and a lot of people find this on the internet, on these smaller stations like APRI, where somebody will come out there and tell them that it's the lizard men that are doing this, and that's a lot easier to believe than your world is falling apart around you, and you got to do something about it.
Right, exactly. And I'd like to mention something you brought up, Ted, about the 10,000 or the 5,000. To all of you wannabe YouTubers out there, there's a wait. When I brought up Jackie, all right, she was a mega. I must say, I ain't gonna lie to you, she was a mega. They judge you not so much. You can have one subscriber, and anybody from the basic YouTube that hits your site and watches your video is a click. That's a click, no matter how many subscribers you got. And I'm sitting on top, and I don't even know. I'll check after this broadcast. I'll check our views with our site. It's several million. I've only got 5,000 subscribers, but I've got several million, and you can look at it and see it. Several million views, and that's the legacy that Jackie and Lance left us with, and that's why I can basically get away with murder on YouTube. I don't. In fact, we're turning into more of a children's channel now, just for kids. We're basically trying to turn it over to Puck and the Quarantines, because that's the future. That's the future. Ted and I are going into book writing now. We're getting away from that, but the kids are taking it over. But if you want to glean, if you go on YouTube, get people. Don't worry about subscribers. I always see this stuff. Subscribe and pass this on. Screw that. Click this son of a bitch. Watch it. Pass it to your damn neighbors and let them watch it too. That will get you producer, director challenge, which is what we have. Okay, that's the way you get with YouTube. And don't get stupid. Don't get on there and start racially ranting or going to blow buildings up or anything. My favorite channel is 32. I think Ted, you watch 32, don't you?
That guy is so good that I'm noticing that he is being hired as the narrator on a lot of Netflix documentaries.
You heard him.
Yeah. His voice is just as distinctive as, I mean, you know it's him when you hear him. So he's good.
40, I can do. I do voices. 42 here. With the
nobody can do 42.
The beer commercial now. With the old man drinking the beer, and he bills himself as this or that for the beer commercial. But I'm going to tell you right now about the most interesting man in the world. I can't remember his name now because I'm drinking beer. But anyway, he is the most interesting man in the world. Go ahead, Ted.
Peter Falk. You and I could drink. He does. Well, that's right. Now, what is the danger of these smaller stations that have a fairly regular viewership of, say, 12 or 15 people? The danger in them is that.
Right. Go ahead, Ted. I'm sorry.
Well, let me say. Well, I'll give you my idea, and then I'd like to hear yours. But I think that what happens is that people cocoon themselves in this alternative universe. Instead of drugs or instead of alcohol, or maybe along with drugs and alcohol, and what happens is the social media algorithm realizes that these people are listening to these kinds of broadcasts, and so they eventually suggest to them a YouTube site, which has a bigger audience, which has a larger audience and a more powerful. These people on YouTube, they sound like preachers. They look like preachers giving a sermon to their congregation, and these people embed themselves in this in such a way that they just cut themselves off from reality. It is a self-reinforcing alternative universe, and right now it's an effective place to retreat. It's like I was kidding about my safe place between my washer and dryer, but people need a safe place nowadays. They need something more comforting than the real world. They need something more comforting than a world where half the country agrees with a lunatic who is trying to twist the arms of the state boards of state canvassers and the secretaries of state and the state legislators and the state governors, where Joe Biden has already won the election. This is a scary idea. There's sort of a thrill of fear and mixed with something else that runs through us when we see democracy actually being seized from us, actually being wrenched away from us before our very eyes. And so it's a lot easier to believe in lizard men, a lot more comforting to believe in slender men, a lot more fun to think about the Justice League, and maybe they'll come and save us from this. Who knows? And restore democracy again. Than it is to realize that this is actually happening. This is really happening. That the leader of another country, Vladimir Putin, is running the show, and I'm telling you, it's a very serious, threatening thought. And so it's a lot easier for you to just embed yourself in this alternate reality.
Well, all right. You asked a question, one I want to answer. What can one person do, 10 people, to whatever? Folks out there in radio land, Ted and I, he dodged Charles Whitman. Google it. I dodged George Hennard. Google it. Both of those were mass shooters here. We've had 2 mass shootings in Killeen. Google it. Right? That's how dangerous it is right there. My guy, George Hennard, I'm going to lunch at Luby's, and my lunch got interrupted because George Hennard got up in Belton one morning. He drove to Killeen. He came over here, and he killed about 30 women by shooting them in the head because he couldn't get laid. I don't have any idea why Whitman was up on that tower that day in Austin, but I do know that Ted was hiding behind a statue so he wouldn't get freaking shot. I gotta get another beer, Ted. Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking about how it is that it's easy to blame this on bad parenting. It's just so easy to blame this on bad parenting. But if you've got children that are of an age, you will discover that trying to separate them from their cell phone, I used to say their mobile device, but it turns out that your children that are using their tablets or their smartphones more often, their tablets or their computers more often than their smartphones, those kids are in less danger. They're actually really more focused. They're still, they're not in an ideal place, but they're still living in the same world you're living in. But if you've got a 12-year-old kid or an 11-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid or a 13-year-old kid that has got their face stuck in their cell phone all the time, this is dangerous because they're going to be 18 before long. It reminds me of that guy that was talking about how this kid that was not a threat at the age of 6 because, at the age of 6 he wasn't big enough to do a lot of harm, but he was getting bigger and bigger every day, And these kids are getting bigger and bigger every day. But they're not developing properly as they get bigger. So there's a guy that came along and he thought, well, I forgot a way of. I have this way that I can teach people to be, I can make people be better parents, and that is I can tell these kids that their parents are bad parents, and he actually started preaching this idea to children that their parents were bad parents for letting them watch their smartphone all the time and not interacting to them. And the result of this is that, well, in one case, this kid convinced herself that her parents really didn't love her, and instead they were abusive and manipulative. And this guy had a solution for this problem that he called, I can't think of, it was defooling I think it was defooing, but completely dissociating yourself from your family. In other words, you got to cut your whole family off. And so that's what this kid did. This kid cut herself off from her whole family. And I'll tell you another thing too is a lot of these people they're making money from this. These kids get cut off from their own families. Well, where are they going to go? CPS. It turns out CPS wants your child unless they run away. If they run away, they don't want your kid. But there are other people that want your kid. And this girl came back and wound up killing her parents because she thought her parents had been abusive and manipulative and not done a proper job of parenting her. And this guy, I would say his name, but I'm afraid we're already in trouble for mentioning other people's names right now, so I'm going to leave his name out. He's actually one of the biggest YouTube people out there right now. Right now, he's making millions of dollars. His videos have been viewed really more than 185 million times. And the subscription services on his website can cost you up to $500. So they're not doing it for nothing. They're making money. And so I think the real danger in these people who have an average listenership of say 15 people is that the algorithm, the social media algorithm, recognizes that this person is listening to this show often, and so they direct by suggestion to this person to go to a different site where actually what happens is they go from smoking marijuana, which is not all that bad, well, which is bad for you, but it's bad. You're not going to get your homework done when you're doing it. But now the next thing you know, they social media site comes and says, well, look, try this needle full of meth or this needle full of heroin, and you move up. You just move up the chain. And the next thing, you're in a full-blown cult, and there's no way to get you out of it. And you know, you're dealing right now with a lady who has lost her ever-loving mind. In fact, she's lost her ability to communicate with. She cannot communicate the written language anymore. She can't write anything that is literate or understandable. She tried.
I mean, and I try and I try and I try. That's why I led her to Amun Ra. That's the main reason I led her to Amun Ra. Is she's an evangelist Christian, which is some people are, and everything, and she's all tied into that. She honestly thinks that Donald Trump is the will of God. Okay. The way, and I'm trying to tell her, look, this is it's politics. Leave it alone. Listen to this man, and he'll teach you about reality, and you'll get more joy out of reality than you will myths and fairy tales and all this other stuff, But we're going to have to address this more and more and more as we go along. And I think on this show we've done several things. Number one, we kept the show entertaining. You notice, I want y'all to notice out there in Radio Land, you're not bored. You're not bored. You're hearing some stuff you ain't heard before. You're not offended. Well, we let loose with a couple of words here and there. But the thing is when I talk to our producer, one thing, his family is in town right now. Ted, this man grows his own corn that he's putting on Thanksgiving tomorrow. His own corn. Is that he's not from Texas, but he needs to get here as fast as he can. He grows his own corn. Stuffs the turkey with chicken breasts, stuff like that. But he's got his family. His whole family's in the house, from what I understand. Mother, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very careful about what we're saying, because there's going to be some little girls around. Because the man's a producer. He's monitoring this in the studio and all this kind of stuff. And the kids are listening. We don't want to offend the kids. We want the kids to learn. We don't want them to be afraid. We want them to say, "Wow, who are those guys?" That kind of stuff. There's a social responsibility, and then I think now I just hit on something there. What's wrong with the other station over there? The other ones over there, they have no social responsibility. You take a child, and they hear you saying as an adult, "There's no hope. You're done. You're full of aluminum. You're going to be a slave to the system. It's all over for you. It's done. It's done. It's done." Well, they've never dealt with the Z generation. They don't think like that. They don't think like Greta. And you want to know who the Z generation is? Greta Thunberg. I don't care if you like her or don't like her. I saw something months ago when Greta came from, Dallas. She was going up through Utah to give a couple of speeches there, and going up to Washington State and then Vancouver. She will not fly. She uses a train. She came down within less than a mile from Puck's house on the train. And my wife told me all those kids got out on the porch just to watch her train go by. All right. Times they are changing, to quote Bob Dylan. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Times they are a-changing. No greater prophecy was ever said. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, one of my favorite books is a book called Tristram Shandy, and in it he talks about paradigms, and paradigms are really just theories. What he says about a paradigm is that it turns people into one of two things, and that is either a hammer or a nail. Now, the point of the cult is to turn you into a hammer, and everything else is a nail. So, let's say you become convinced that there's such a thing as gang stalking. So you wake up in the morning and you walk past your window and you look outside and your neighbor's outside weeding their garden. And the first thing that occurs to you is, now that you're a hammer, your neighbor has to be a nail because your neighbor's not in the cult. And so, you know why they're weeding their garden? It's because they're better than you. That's why. And they're going to show you that they're better than you because they're out there weeding their garden instead of sleeping in late like you did. And on your way to work, you know, a couple of black SUVs pull up, and somebody looks back at you from one of the black SUVs as they pass you. They're cyber stalking me. They're gang stalking me. You know, you see a squad car behind you, and you're sure that's not a coincidence. You know, you get to your office, and your garbage can's moved, and your stapler's missing, and your computer's warm, and because it was just being used. It's like that popsicle stick out there out there beside your thing.
Right.
The idea is to make is to try to draw you into the idea that all the nails out there are trying to stick you, and so as a hammer, it's your job to nail them into the wood.
Exactly, and that's exactly what it
is. That's how they work. Yeah.
Every time I've been on other shows, and every time they have a computer glitch, a cell jet, we've had it here. I got kicked off last week and couldn't get back on. You've been kicked off in the past, couldn't get back on. It's just the nature of the beast. It means nothing, you know. But every time when I was on the show and they get a glitch, it's the trolls. They're out there. They're
taunting you. They're taunting you.
And it has nothing. And when you tell somebody something that's common sense, you know. I just always said, well, and targeted individuals. Oh my Jesus God, you know, how can I tell I'm being targeted? When they show up in a white van, snatch all your damn kids and take them to the state. You just been targeted, dumbass. I've been there, done that.
And you can't escape it.
No, you can't.
Once because it's inside of you, it's in your head. You know, you sit down in front of your computer, you check your email, and there's all those advertisements from companies you've never patroned. You know, you've never patroned, but look, your email box is full of it. You also get emails from people who
prey on you, and they. I haven't until just recently. It's been the last 6 months that I've understood the power of. I don't know if you call it psychosis or paranoia or what. You know, it's the power of somebody will believe something that's totally crazy, and they'll buy into it, and then they'll get a hold of some internet radio station, and they'll buy into everything they say. And we say lizard men, folks. We're not kidding. We're not kidding. There are people out there in these radio shows that truly believe in lizard men. These are either some kind of morphs or whatever, and they're lizard men. This doesn't happen. There is no flat Earth. There is no nano compartments in the vaccination. It doesn't exist. It never happened. There is no world order, and I'm saying that up front. I've said that, and it makes everybody on the other side of the fence madder than hell. There is no world order. Bill Gates is running it. Bill Gates couldn't run Windows, and you think he's going to run a new world order? Nigga, please, come on. You know, you've got to pull your heads, like my producer used to say in Nashville, pull your head out of Mr. Ass, you know, and we really need to do that.
We right now, I want to, because I, as usual, time flies, but I want to move to the point where
4 more minutes. I want you to conclude this. I'm going to sit here. Got about 4 more minutes. I'd like to give our producer about 15 minutes to set the other girl up. So go ahead.
So as bad as all that is that I was talking about, what Billy was talking about happens, and that is that eventually you fall into this space where advanced government technology is being used to beat your brain into submission with radio waves, and they can make you do nearly anything. They can cause you to have anxiety attacks and make you very, very sad, or make you hear voices to tell you to do dangerous things. You know, all this stuff that they can do. And when does that day come? It comes on the day that you realize you don't have many friends, and everyone you meet is either part of the conspiracy to harass you, or they don't believe in the predicament that you're in, and real friends would believe you. I mean, don't real friends believe you? Yes, I mean, absolutely. That's real. So you don't have any real friends except for the ones that are in the cult. Now, this is what happens to you when you fall prey to an internet conspiracy theory. That's the day that happens, is when you say to yourself, if I had real friends, they'd believe what I had to say. But they don't believe what I have to say. So I guess these people that I never met before that are on, that are on my that are in my the cult that I'm listening to, that must be my real friends. And so I think that what most people think is that they've settled on the idea that they're being taunted and targeted and teased by the Illuminati, if you will, okay? But in reality, these people are probably suffering from undertreated or untreatable mental conditions. Because I think what happens, I've begun to develop a theory about schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and other conditions that we think of as being genetic and therefore organic and therefore untreatable by any other means than big league neuroleptics. I'm beginning to think that it looks genetic because you come from a family where you're being treated in such a way that you really are not being parented properly. So either bad things are happening to you or you're being ignored or both, and this causes your brain to develop differently. We know that our brain, the way our brains are formed, can be changed. We can actually change our DNA with information and material that comes into our brain. That actually happens. Just like the use of drugs does that to us. People, you can change your DNA with drugs. You can change your DNA with having these ideas come into your head. And you can, and I think that's what happens. I think that their neurological balances are just altered by what happens in the home. And I think that the sanctity of what goes on in the home and the idea that a man's castle is his home, and so therefore we got no business interfering with what goes on inside there, has maybe just brought us to this point. Because now social media can come in and stand in for the parent. And that's what I have to say about it.
We have reached our tipping point here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to us tonight. We hope we brought you some information and hopefully a little entertainment. And I'd like to say something in conclusion, that Ted and I say a prayer for everybody listening here, that every bite that you take tomorrow is blessed, and that hopefully nobody will get sick. Hopefully we'll get beyond this thing, and we'll be able to go on together, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, black, white, lizard man, whatever. If we don't hang together, we will all hang separately. Good night.
Most certainly.